Welcome to Coach Talk.
Hey Dave, hey everyone, it's great to be back with you today.
LJ. And you know what? Every podcast I say, LJ, how are you?
I am, let me see, shall I nick your four-letter word? Epic.
Oh, see, you got this thing about four-letter words.
They don't have to be bad all the time.
I think we're both epic. We are epic. But the good thing is today is recording day.
Recording day. So it's great to be with everyone today, and we hope that you are doing awesome, enjoying your time, doing what you love to do. And what are we talking about today?
So today I thought we'd have story time.
Oh, Uncle Cutto's stories.
Uncle
Woohoo!
Cutto's story time. So I have a story for you. I want to tell you, this will go for a little bit, LJ. So it's going to go for maybe 10, 15 minute story, but I'd like you to help me unpack it at the end a little bit.
Okay. And
just talk about some of the wonderful things that happened in my story that at the time I did a little bit realise it, but at the time I didn't realise the magnitude of what it has done for me in the long term since.
Now I'm intrigued.
Yeah, so
this will be good.
This will be. I hope you enjoy it.
So let's pre-frame this for our beautiful listeners. So strap yourselves in, get comfy, and let Uncle Dave's beautiful story transport you to another place, another time where we can all get some beautiful wisdom.
Did you want to put some storytime music in the background and then lie back in the beanbag?
Oh, no, because some people listen to us when they're driving, so I didn't want to upset them. So if you're driving, just enjoy the gold that comes out of this, because we know through your letters and your correspondence and letting us know how much you're enjoying what we do, that there's gold in here for everybody.
There's definitely gold.
Love that. So let's go gold mining.
Okay, so we will. So this story goes back to 2019, so a little while back. And in those days, before I moved into other areas, I was still a international boxing referee, and I travelled around refereeing at international events as boxing referees.
How good is that?
It was pretty cool. So I was fortunate enough to be flown around the world and officiate at world championships and other things, different tournaments in different countries, and I loved it before I moved into mentoring and training referees, which I still do now, which is another great part of what I do. So I went to the 2019 Women's World Boxing Championships in Siberia, and it was in a small town called Ulan-Ude, which is tucked away in Siberia. It was coming just out of winter, so temperature there would have been during the day about -10, maybe -15, and at night time was about -20 to -30.
So just for those of us who live in Australia, that sounds pretty cold. Now, Are we talking Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Celsius.
Holy dooly, that's grab a blanket and wear the fire, isn't it?
That is cold stuff. So it was coming out of Australian summer to travel there. It was certainly different. So the experience I want to talk about in this story, what happened on the way there, travelling from Melbourne all the way to Siberia. It was a fairly long trip. It took me, I think including stopover in Beijing, it took about 50 hours with a 12-hour stopover. So there was
50 hours.
Yeah, there was a lot.
Wow.
A lot in it. So Siberia is far away, and it's a great thing. So the flights and everything were great. There was no worries. I flew across to my first stop. I think it was into Beijing. It might have been Singapore, Beijing, but I did a couple of stops, and then from Beijing I had to fly into Russia, and that was fine. Everything's going very, very well. No problems at all. I'm quite excited, enjoying. I like flying. I love it. Just movies and sleeping and just cocoon myself into my seat, and I love that.
Waking up somewhere different.
Yeah, I love it. So I landed in this little town, and I'm going to try and say it. It's called Irkutsk.
Irkutsk?
Irkutsk. I think it ends in a STK or an SKT, Irkutsk, something like that. But it's a very small town. It's about an hour's flight from Ulan-Ude in Russia. And it's about equivalent distance from Melbourne to Sydney.
Okay.
So about that sort of distance. And I jumped off the plane, ended up in a very small tin shed, which was their international airport.
Really?
Yeah. So, and this tin shed had literally one coffee shop. It had...
Did that freak you out when you got off the plane and saw a tin shed?
I was in the middle of nowhere with no one spoke English.
Did you feel like you've been punished? Because, in good old movies, it's like off to Siberia when you do the wrong thing.
Yeah, it's like in the war movies, they send you to Siberia. So just Siberia, Hogan's Heroes. So I'm in this tiny tin shed with a coffee shop, some seating and a bag scanning equipment for security. And that was it in Irkutsk. Anyway, so I'm there. I think, okay, I've got a ticket that says my connecting flight, which is going to go to Ulana, where we end up for the World Championships. So me having travelled a bit, I always ask in different countries, I ask 3 different people the same question because generally I'll get the correct answer by asking 3 people. So I showed a person my ticket to Ulana and I asked them in English, of course I don't speak Russian, do I stay here? And pointed my finger to the floor, do I stay here? And they're like, yes. Okay, great. So I had a bit of time. My flight was leaving at 3 p.m. It was about, whatever it was, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I went and got a coffee at the coffee shop. There was no one in the coffee shop apart from the young girl that serves coffee. And she made me the world's worst coffee I've ever had in my life. It was like drinking formaldehyde. It was horrible. I couldn't.
But you're awake then.
Yeah, and she was staring at me above the counter, just that death stare while I'm drinking coffee all by myself, with no one around, in Russia, in this tin shed of an airport. It was horrible. I couldn't finish it. So, as I was walking out, I said to her in English, smiling because I was a bit cheeky, I said, that coffee will kill someone one day. And so she's smiling and nodding because she doesn't know what I said.
Yeah.
And she must have...
That you know of.
I knew. So she's nodding and I walked out. I went back up to someone else and I showed her my ticket and I said, is this where I'm meant to be? And they, yes. No worries. Great, that's 2 for 2. So I'm sitting down and then the bag handler lady turns up to do some security checks and I walked up to her and I said, 3rd time, this ticket, Ulana, should I be here? And she's nodded her head, yes. Great, no worries. So it was about, 20 to 3 in the afternoon and my flight's boarding at 3 o'clock. 10 to 3, people are arriving at this little tin shed and they're queuing up at the only door that goes out to the tarmac. They're queuing up with their bags. I'm thinking this is pretty good, so no worries. So they're queuing up, 5 to 3, no worries. 3 o'clock on the dot, this neon sign comes up above the doorway saying Beijing. So...
Beijing?
Yeah, Beijing. And I'm thinking...
I'm going the other way.
Yeah. So I found a 4th person and showed them the ticket and they shook their head no. No. And they're pointing out the door and down the road. So the people are queuing up to go on a Beijing flight from Irkutsk. I'm in the wrong area. So I walked out the door of this small airport. I look about half a K down the road and there's another small airport, which is obviously the connecting flights to go to Ulana.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's 3 o'clock.
You're doing the big roadrunner effort down there.
100%. So I've grabbed my luggage and I'm sprinting, and I'm not very fit these days, but I'm sprinting down the road, getting to this airport. I get there, the gate is open, they're boarding the plane up the stairs. I show the guy my ticket and he shuts the gate right in my face. I cannot get on the tarmac, and he just shook his head, and it was 2 minutes past 3 and they've closed the boarding gate, and I'm watching them from 50 metres away board the plane that I'm meant to be on to go to the Women's World Championships.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm now stuck in Irkutsk,
the middle of
Siberia,
yep.
And I've got nothing. I watched my plane take off.
I have to ask you, I mean, it's an obvious question, but what went through your head right then?
Yeah, there was a little bit of panic.
A sphincter moment?
Yeah, it was a sphincter moment. The first thing I thought about was, how do I tell these guys that I will not be refereeing in the ring at the World Championships, which begin the next afternoon? I've got the next afternoon to 24 hours to get there. What am I going to do? It hit me pretty hard. I was panicking. So the plane took off. I watched it. Goodbye, my lover. Goodbye, my friend. So it went, and I thought, okay. So I walked back inside. I no one spoke English. I had no internet. I had nothing at all. My phone wouldn't work there, and
That's a scary
I
place
had
to be.
nothing to do with in Russia with nothing at all. So I just took a bit of a breath and just slowed down myself a little bit and thought, okay, what can I do here? What can I do to solve my problem and go back into a problem-solving state? And it was evident that other people had internet access or Wi-Fi because they're on their phones and they're using locals, but they're using their phones. I walked into the office, this tiny office that for the airlines, I can't recall the airline, it's a Russian airline. And the lady behind the counter, do you have Wi-Fi? And she said, yes. So I connected to Wi-Fi, which then gave me the opportunity to use a translation app, which is a massive win for me. So I explained over a translation app into Russian, I've missed my flight. Is there another way that I can get to Ulana-Ude? So I've now got communication. I've got something. So that's a good thing. She was replying to me, no, there are no flights for another day, 2 days. You can't get there. You have to wait here. There's nothing at all. And so that shut me down a little bit. That's okay. So, okay, what else can I do? What else can I do? So I text her through the translation app, is there a bus or a train, something that goes today to Ulana-Ude? And she said, yes, there's a train. It's fantastic. Like, this is great. No worries. Can you book me a ticket? No, you must buy a ticket at the station. Okay, no worries. How far away is the station? It's 30 minutes away, half an hour. Okay, good. When does the train leave? It leaves in 20 minutes.
Oh my God.
So here's me
goodness.
thinking, what are we going to do here? So I text her, I said, if you can get a taxi, please, to come here and get me to the station in under 20 minutes, I'll pay him 3 times his normal fare. And she goes, okay. So this is just planning, just working on solutions, trying to get something into play that's going to work out for me. I had no other options. So she's made a phone call, taxis come screaming up. The taxis in Irkutsk, they are like 1970s 4-cylinder Toyota Corollas with steel steering wheels and steel dashboards. And
I've just got this image in my head of you going, are you kidding me?
Are you serious? No seatbelts, no airbags. They're just these 4-cylinder rust buckets that
you're hoping to goodness get you there.
Yeah. So this guy comes screaming up on the footpath. I walk out. I said, bye. And I said goodbye and waved. And she was lovely. She did a great service. So I jumped in the taxi. I've gone, go, go, go. So off we go. He drove like a man possessed. He was darting through traffic.
He wanted that.
He wanted the cash.
Yeah.
He was up on the footpath. I thought I was going to die.
You felt like you're in an action sequence.
Yeah, I did. I was in an action movie. He was honking the horn, and it was an experience. So we got to the train station, and the train was leaving in 5 minutes. So he got there pretty well. So I paid him his money, no worries, because I always travel to a country with a little bit of cash, as I do. I get it exchanged in Melbourne. No worries. So I walk in there, up to the counter. Can I have a ticket to Ulana-Ude? No, said the lady behind the counter. She wouldn't sell me a ticket. And I don't know why, I don't speak Russian, but she would not sell me. So what am I going to do? Your train's leaving in 2 minutes. I've got to get on this train. What do I do? So I stood up on this table in this train station. It was like, imagine like Grand Central Station with people everywhere, with platforms everywhere, exits and entries, and just hundreds and hundreds of people just bustling around. And I stood on this table and I said, excuse me, does anybody here speak English? Anybody at all, please? Does anyone talk English? And I was yelling out, and this one voice goes, I speak English.
Wow.
Wow. I said, please come and help me. I need your help. So this lovely guy turned up, well-dressed young man, and I said, I need to buy a ticket and I've got to jump on this train. It's leaving in a minute or two. I must be on this train. Help me, please. So he said, blah, 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 and I paid for my ticket. I got the ticket. I turned around. I said, what platform is it on? He said, there's no platforms on that side of the station. The trains line up next to each other on the tracks and you have to walk out on the tracks and find the number of your train.
What? Did you feel like you're in a Get Smarts movie?
It just got, and all the trains are in Russian. There were no English
numbers.
Nothing, no. And looked out this big window and there would have been 10, 15 trains lined up next to each other.
Oh, my Lord.
I had no idea. So I grabbed him by the arm and said, you're coming with me. You have to help me. And he said, oh, okay. So I dragged this guy, one arm on my luggage, one arm on him, and dragged him out this door to all these trains. So we had the number on the ticket. And I said, what train is it? Which train is it? He said, it's that one there. It's that one there. And that was the train that was pulling out. It was on the move already. So I literally threw my luggage up the stairs and there were two conductors, two female conductors, and they were watching and they're shaking their head and they're, niet, no. I said, yes. And I threw this up the stairs and the train was doing a couple of k's an hour just slowly. And I grabbed the railing and jumped up on the railing, up on the stairs. I said to the guy, thank you. And he gave me a wave and I'm on the train heading to Alona Day.
Yeah.
So we're doing okay so far.
Right. That's an adventure and you haven't even got to where you're meant to be.
Yeah. So up the stairs, not a problem. I sat down and the way that the carriage was configured, it was imagine a square table and there's a bench seat on either side of the table and you face each other. So there's two people facing me and I'm sitting next to someone. So there's us two and there's two people facing me. And that's the whole train is like that, which is pretty good because then you can have food and eat and drink and there's a big table between us and that sort of thing. So I sat down and there was a Russian lady next to me and she was very quiet, and opposite me were two elderly Russian women with their beautiful coloured scarves over their heads, and they had the death stare that would decimate a planet. They just were looking at me like they wanted to just throw me back out of the train. They were not happy and just staring at me and with their arms crossed and, oh, what have I done here? So I'm sitting on the train, off we go on our journey, and it's all very quiet and, me, I needed coffee.
Yeah.
So I thought, so I walked into the little room where the conductors sit, the two ladies, and I said, do you speak English? And no. Do you have coffee? No. Do you have food? No. And I realised that I'm on a train to Alona Day. There's no food. You cannot buy water. You cannot... There's no...
When was the last time you had food and drink?
Hours and hours prior. So
your keto diet started then?
It started right there. Yeah, it was fasting at its best. So no food or drink for the duration of the trip. So I went and sat down again. The lady next to me, I said, excuse me, do you talk English? And she said, a little bit. I said, oh, fantastic, that's a start, because I can't use translation app on the train. No. So she could talk a little bit, which was great. So I said, how long does it take to get to Alona Day? And she said, 12 hours. So we're going to arrive at like 3:30.
What time
4 o'clock
were
in the
you
morning.
meant to be?
So I was meant to be there the night before, and then but the boxing tournament started in the afternoon the next day. So I would still arrive in time for the tournament, but I didn't know it was going to be a 12-hour train ride.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was okay. So 12 hours. I need a coffee. I need a coffee. So I got up, walked back into the small conductor room and said to these two lovely ladies, please, have you got coffee? And one of them must have taken pity on me. So she went and made me a coffee from her own instant coffee stash with some boiling water out of an urn in another room. And she put some milk in it and she made me a big mug of coffee.
Oh, that's lovely.
It was lovely. So I said, thank you very much. And she's like smiling and nodding. I said, I think I love you, because I had coffee in my hand. She had no idea what I was saying. So
that you know of.
So and that was that. And I went back and sat down. As I sat down at my table, the lady next to me reached into her handbag and slid a Mars bar across the table.
Do they have them over there?
Yeah, so it was a Mars bar across the table, and I had a Mars bar next to my coffee mug, sitting on a train in Siberia, heading to Ulan-Ude. And she just nodded.
Oh, isn't that beautiful?
Isn't that wonderful? So I had a Mars bar and I had coffee. So I had coffee and chocolate. And I looked across at the two ladies opposite me, those two, and they were still staring at me with their arms crossed, but they both nodded like, this is what we do in Russia.
We nod.
we nod, and we let you know that we still care about you, sort of thing. So I had coffee and chocolate. Looking out the window, it was stunning. There was snow everywhere. We're going in towards the mountains, and before long, we started travelling around a lake on the left-hand side of the train. And the lake is called Lake Baikal. Now, for those listening, if you want to Google Lake Baikal, Baikal, it is the largest inland lake in the world, and it holds 20% of the world's fresh water.
20%?
20%.
Wow.
It extends in length about the same distance, once again, from Melbourne to Sydney.
The lake does?
The lake.
That's incredible.
It's incredible. And it is so big, it just looks like an endless sea. The lake is on my left, and on the right-hand side, there's like mountains that's all covered in snow with snow-lined trees, stunning snow scenery, and the lake on the left. Mm. And then you can see parts across the lake a little bit with mountains and snow. The scenery was exquisite.
Yeah.
Absolutely exquisite. And at that point I realised, sitting there in this train with a chocolate bar and a coffee, that it was my birthday.
Oh.
Isn't that a great way to spend a birthday?
Well, it's definitely a room with a view.
And I had a shift. I had a shift from there on. I realised that this is actually exciting. It's fantastic. I love it. It could not be any better. This is something that I will look back on in the future, and I will speak fondly of it, compared to, I don't know what I'm going to do, panic. I'm now enjoying my journey and having a wonderful time with people. The lady spoke a little bit of English. It was okay, so we could talk a little bit about a few things. And I'm safe, I'm warm, and I'm going to where I'm going to get there later than I should, but I will still be ready to go on time. Next day on time.
That's a massive... I've just got all these beautiful pictures in my head as you're telling this amazing story. Let me ask you one thing. So once you've realised it's your birthday, you've got your coffee and a beautiful gift of the chocolate, because really your coffee and chocolate were your birthday gifts, weren't they?
Can't get any better than that.
Did that bring you peace?
It did. It brought me a lot of peace and contentment.
Like, oddly it shouldn't, but yet it does.
It did. It was like nothing else really mattered at that time. I was just happy to be present in the now and just go with it.
What an amazing paradigm shift that there's gift in even the smallest things.
Yeah, and all the panic and all of the worry from an hour, 2, 3 before completely dissipated to I realised that there's a lot I can do if you just keep trying, just keep stepping up, just keep, as we talk about, showing up, just keep looking for an answer. In the words
of Nemo, just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming. Yeah. I like Dory.
Yeah,
that's me.
Sydney.
When we got to Ulan-Ude early in the morning, it was freezing. It was minus 30 something. It was freezing cold.
Look, you did know it was going to be cold, but weren't prepared for that?
No, not that. I've never had that sort of
cold.
So as we're coming into the station, the lady next to me said she's called her husband, and they are going to sit with me until the guys from the organisation are going to pick me up and take me to my hotel. Wasn't that lovely? So I met her husband, lovely guy, and we sat together for only 15 minutes. The people turned up, they picked me up, and and I went and did the Women's World Championships and loved it, loved the whole thing. And Alona Day, beautiful area, wonderful people. They're called they're called Buryat, the Buryat people, Buriat, I think it is. But the Buryats they're sort of like a combination of Mongolian and Siberian, wonderful people, and they would give you the shirt off their back. They're just so accommodating, gentle. So I spent 2 weeks with the Buryats at the World Championships. The lady I met who stayed with me with her husband, she caught up with me again with her hubby and her son during the championships to say hello. And to this day, we still communicate.
Wow,
every
that's
few weeks,
gorgeous.
and we talk. And she uses her translation app to send me messages, and I talk to her and her husband over in Siberia. And
how beautiful is that?
Just a lovely friendship formed by me missing
chance encounter.
Yeah. So I just thought that story alone for me, it stuck with me for so many years now, because it showed me in my growth that you just keep looking for answers, keep looking to find a way, and don't give up. And
wow.
We talked about when we interviewed Cal and Marissa in the boxing, and Cal, the coach, and he said that to me years ago in overseas before London Olympics, don't give up. It's a similar sort of thing, and I didn't give up. I looked at just ways to find an answer instead of, I could have sat in the corner and sucked my thumb and said, no, that's it, I'm done.
And chewed everybody out and had a hissy fit and did a normal... I'm generalising here, but a lot of tourists in a strange place will go to town because they think they can.
Yeah.
So the gift you're sort of saying that you gave yourself was the realisation of your resourcefulness.
Absolutely. And it was... I had no choice at the time. I had to do something, and whether I did the right thing or not, or I just looked at options until something worked out for me. It's a great story, and it's true, 100% true, and I love the experience of the whole thing. I just want to convey to people that are listening that if you are faced with something where you think you haven't got a way out...
There's always a way.
Yeah, there's a way.
Thank you for sharing. What a beautiful story.
It's a great story. I had a great time.
It's a great story.
Yeah.
And also just the messages that come out of that about how resourceful we really are when we give ourselves the choice. The friendships that you've made out of that, the countryside that you got to see that you would not have experienced from a plane, the gift of, in the small things, of your chocolate and your coffee. Yeah, and a lot of that, and spot on, a lot of that... There's a movie in that.
I hope we get royalties out of it. Yeah, a lot of how you show up, and I know
but it's so much more than that, isn't it?
It is, and you're big on the way you greet people and the way you meet people, and the way you establish rapport with people, and I know you're so big on that, and you do it so well. And I'm of the same vein, but there was, along that whole journey, no one said no to me when I asked for help, or when I walked in and asked, even for the people that said you should stay here to catch this next plane, and they were incorrect, they still helped me because I asked them. The lady who, with the translation app, who called me a taxi, the guy at the train station who, when I stood up, and so I think a part of that is also the way that I present and show up. People can
be respectfully curious, and you'll get help,
respond to
and
that.
Ask for help.
So, and it's just giving it a go instead of me having a limiting belief and saying I can't do this, or this won't happen, or it's impossible. Let's just stay here or book a hotel and figure something out tomorrow. Give something a go. If something in your life is challenging you, or you want to have a different result, try something different. And this is something, I suppose, for me, all the way back then, is I tried something different for once, and it actually worked out for me, and I got a different result.
What's popping in my head, as you know, circus things happen in my head when we talk. You see my lights go on. I think I'm hearing no guts, no glory. But seriously, that's what's coming to me as I'm listening to you going, it's that Muhammad and the mountain, really, isn't it?
It is. And I know there was a podcast when I did the podcast about how do you show up.
Yeah.
And it was about your lovely mum. And I remember saying in that, so what do you do? And I remember saying, be brave, be bold.
Yeah. And find your peace.
And yes, and there's a lot in that. During that week, we had one day off from the tournament, and the organisers took us for a day to Lake Baikal.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to stand at the edge of the lake, which is massive, and the lake is about 1 degree, 2 degrees. It's freezing cold.
Yeah.
The locals strip off into their bathers and they jump in and go
Polar
for a
Bear
swim.
Club.
Yeah, and they light fires on the beach, which is covered in snow, and they jump out, get dried, stand around a fire, or they have these large tents, and in the tent is a fire. It's like a Canara sort of combustion fire they light, and you can
like a sweat lodge.
It's a sweat lodge, and you can sit inside this tent and warm up.
So realistically, because Western world seems to have just caught on about the whole ice bath thing, realistically we are so far behind, aren't we?
We are. They were doing the ice bath, heat, cold, hot.
That's
cold,
generational.
hot.
That's just how they cope with the cold, I think.
And they loved it. And I was lucky enough to be immersed in watching folk dancing and people in their traditional costumes and the horseback riders on the beach. And
See, I seriously think that's going to make a great movie.
Yeah, great movie. Royalties.
Destination Dave.
So the whole thing worked out really well for me, and it was, I know you've heard the story before, but I just, to this day, I still think about it and how many gifts I was given for one journey along the way, and it was purely because I kept trying.
Whereas if you had, would it be fair to say that if you had approached it from a traditional Westerners, let's just be general, traditional Westerners, which when it goes wrong, it goes horribly wrong, you would have missed out on so much.
Absolutely. So,
like to the point where you probably would have packed your bags and come straight home, or jumped on the Beijing plane.
Exactly. So what do? Either pack bags, go home, jump on a Beijing plane, or one thought
push
was
forward.
Call the organisers and say, I'm not going to make it. I'll just go home because I'm stuck here with. But it just wasn't. That wasn't going to work for me.
Not succeeding.
No.
Was never an option.
No.
And I love that.
No. I'd come that far. I'd come that far. I had come that far. All the way to Irkutsk, where I was only literally an hour's flight to Alone a day. I was almost at my destination. I was almost where I had to be. Why would I give up there and say, that's it, I'm just going to... There had to be a solution. So the tipping point for me was when I noticed that the other people on their phones and they were using Wi-Fi, and that was the saviour. Once I had Wi-Fi, then translation, everything sort of fell into place after that. But just having that awareness, looking around, what is there, something around me, like a situational awareness? What can I use that is available to me that's within my grasp?
It's the little things.
It's the little things, and that
most people wouldn't have. Most people would not have even twigged to that.
It turned the whole thing around and made it to be an awesome adventure. So,
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. That's awesome.
No, you're so welcome. It's a long story, I know, but
it's a great story because there's so much in it.
I just want to impart with people that if you think you can't,
you can.
Most of the time you can. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So challenge? You got a challenge on the end of that story?
I think the challenge is pretty much like if you are faced with something coming up in your week that you would initially say, this is just not going to happen, or this is not going to work. Get outside of your own head, look outside the square, and look for something that will move you forward, even inch by inch, until you're on your way, and then things will open up. The gates will open up for you. But don't just assume that on the face value that it's all done and dusted, because more often than not, it's not.
Yeah.
Just have a look outside your own square and see if you can find a solution.
I like that. I like that a lot. I'm trying to think, there was a poem that would go really well with this one, but I can't think what it is. But the few lines I remember was, it's like, inch by inch, my good citizen.
I don't know it.
I'll find it because it's a beautiful poem. I love that. Thank you for your gorgeous share. There's so much in it, and I think hopefully our listeners get as much out of it to test their own resourcefulness and to also look back on the times when they've been presented with similar challenges and actually go, was I resourceful or was I unresourceful? And what did I learn out of it, and what can I do better next time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Reflection's a wonderful thing.
It is. If you think you can't, you're
right.
Yeah, you're right.
You're right.
Absolutely, but flip it because you can.
There's always a heads and a tail.
You said that last podcast.
I know, because it's true.
Always a heads and a tail.
Is it true or true?
It's definitely true. Thanks, LJ. Thank you for
Have a great
listening.
one.
Yeah, and I will talk to you next time around and look forward to our next podcast.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, it's LJ and Dave here. Thank you so much for listening to the latest podcast.
We love what we do, and we know you get something great out of each and every publication.
So don't forget to jump on the website, coachtalk.com.au. Leave us a message. Let us know what you're up to, what you're enjoying, what you're loving most, and what else you'd like to see us do.
You can also find all of our content on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, and Apple Music.
Coachtalk.com.au is the website.
Coach Talk.
We've got you.